High schooler defeats 3 NCAA finalists in one day. 17-year-old high school junior takes third at the Olympic trials. High schooler beats the #1 ranked college wrestler in the country. All 3 of those headlines are real, and all 3 are about Marcus Blaze. For years, Marcus has been one of the most talked about young wrestlers in the country. A true phenom, with expectations following him wherever he went. So a year ago, when he arrived on campus at Penn State, the expectations were already insanely high. And for most freshmen, finishing 4th at the NCAA Championships would be a dream season. For Marcus, it felt a little different than that. He entered college alongside a historic crop of freshman stars, including Jax Forrest, Ben Davino, and Aaron Seidel. And by the end of March, all 3 of those guys finished ahead of him on the podium at NCAAs. But luckily for Marcus, he has a chance to respond. At the US Open, a title would not just punch his ticket to Final X. It would put him right back at the top of the conversation, and it would remind everyone why Marcus Blaze made headlines in the first place, which is why I decided to follow him through the US Open to see if he could accomplish this goal. But I also selfishly wanted to use it as an excuse to get to know a wrestler who mostly keeps to himself. I've always been curious about what goes on inside Marcus Blaze's brain, and I was really grateful for the opportunity to sit down and get to know him. If you didn't know, my name's Tyler, I work at Flow, and I specialize in these longer form documentary style videos where we get to know athletes a little bit better. If you like those kinds of videos, make sure you subscribe to my channel. It's collabed on this video down below. Subscribing lets YouTube know that you like these sorts of videos and makes it less likely for you to miss the next one, especially since we post so many different kinds of content to this main FloWrestling YouTube channel. I really appreciate everyone who's been subscribing. It's been awesome to see the love the last Aiden Sinclair video had. We followed Bo Bassett through the US Open as well, so if you don't want to miss that one, make sure you subscribe. But for now, let's jump back into the Marcus Blaze story. One of the first things I learned about Marcus that actually shocked me was that he used to be really scared of competing.
Yeah, I fell in love with wrestling, mostly because my brother did it. He was a big role model for me. And then I didn't compete for a while because the feeling was too scary for me. I got too nervous.
Marcus would even enter tournaments and then back out at the last second, right as they were calling his name.
I would enter a tournament and then I would just get super nervous and then I would just fall out. I'd be up next. Then it'd be my turn to go out there, and then I'd just be like, yeah, I can't do this. Oh, wow. I took 3 years of just straight wrestling practice, and then I started competing, and I did pretty well.
That's interesting. Is that something you'd recommend to other kids?
I would, yeah.
I thought that was a really cool and interesting message to hear from Marcus, because a lot of parents are rushing to get their kids into competition and ahead of the curve. Yet here's one of the most successful young wrestlers the sport has ever seen saying he didn't even compete for the first 3 years he was in wrestling.
Let your kid get in the sport and understand hey, this is what you're going to be doing and this is what it takes to win, and then let them just wrestle and have fun. Coach Kale didn't say, hey, I'm going to recruit you because you won the Tulsa Open when you were 7 years old, you know?
Yeah. And maybe Marcus wasn't competing, but he always had lofty goals that were fed by the love he was able to naturally grow for the sport.
My dad never forced me to do anything. He's like, if you want to go to practice, you go to practice. I'm super competitive, and I think a lot of people would tell you that in literally anything. Right when I felt that I loved wrestling, I was like, all right, I'm gonna try and be the best person at wrestling as I can possibly be. And so I think that's when I was like, all right, I'm gonna be a world champion, Olympic champion.
Thinking back to when you were 6 years old, or even when you were a freshman in high school, did you think you'd be as far as you are now today?
No. I don't think so. I remember my freshman year of high school, I made it to the finals of Ironman. I told one of my friends, I was like, I don't even care if I win. I'm in the finals of Ironman. I didn't realize how good I really was until freshman summer. I ended up winning Fargo that year.
Nice drag on the leg, gets his points, does Blaze.
Marcus beat Jordan Rainey, then Anthony Knox, dropped an iconic Michael Jordan shrug, and was the new #1 ranked wrestler in the country. But winning that tournament isn't what gave him new confidence. It was what happened in the practice room later.
I think my coach would tell you, him and I would wrestle a lot, and he used to beat me pretty good. And then we started wrestling right after Fargo. I had smoked him. It was really bad. Yeah, something happened, my muscles recovered or something in a weird way. And that's when I was like, all right, I think I can be really, really good at the sport. I started to learn more about nutrition and understand you probably shouldn't eat an Uncrustable before you go wrestle. Or you probably shouldn't eat 3 pounds of candy when you're cutting weight because you just think, oh, candy's light, so I can eat it.
Now he gets in onto the single leg attack. And this is classic Blaze.
From that point on, Marcus just kept winning. He won a U17 world title, beat Jax Forrest to take third at the Olympic trials as a high schooler. Then a few months later, he wrestled at the non-Olympic world team trials and took out, are you ready for this, 3 NCAA finalists in one day. At just 17 years old, he beat NCAA champion Seth, 4-time NCAA finalist and world silver medalist Dayton Fix, and NCAA champion Nashawn Garrett. He won a U20 world title the following year as a senior in high school, and he was the most sought-after recruit in his entire class. The whole country was waiting to see which school he'd pick to represent at the NCAA level. Real quick, this video is not sponsored, but I do want to introduce you to a product I wish I had when I was still wrestling. It's called Brick, and it's a physical phone blocker that helps you lock down the apps that pull your attention away. Wrestling takes so much energy, focus, and emotional control, and your phone can seriously disrupt that, especially on competition days. Everyone knows you don't want to get too high or too low, and your phone can really suck the energy out of you, which is why I wish I had one of these when I was still competing. You set the apps you want to block, tap your phone to the brick, and now they're blocked until you tap your phone to the brick again. I totally would have bricked my phone every tournament, and I know it would have helped me lock in. I've had my own brick for 2 years now, and I use it anytime I need to avoid distractions and finish a video, and I actually used it to finish the one you're watching right now. We have an affiliate link down in the description that'll save you 10% off your order, and any purchases through that link will help support more long-form deep dive wrestling videos like this one. If that sounds interesting to you, then check out getbrick.com/FloWrestling or click the link down in the description. Now back to the video. What about wrestling do you love? If you could pick one thing, what's your favorite thing about it?
Winning. Yeah, winning. That's why I went to Penn State.
Penn State has been the gold standard of NCAA wrestling for the past decade, and Marcus is their newest phenom, the next guy that's supposed to win multiple NCAA titles. That has to be a lot of pressure, right? Marcus says no. Did you feel any pressure coming into this year, as a true freshman, kind of phenom guy that a lot of people had big expectations for?
Yeah, not really. Coach Kale is masterful at that stuff. He makes it seem like wrestling is just this little thing, in which he's right. He tells a story all the time, like there's so many other things to be more grateful for than just wrestling, like your family, your friends, and all the relationships you have. So I just keep that into consideration.
Now, in any other era, Marcus would have moonwalked to the NCAA finals, in my opinion. But he entered college with probably the best 133-pound crop of freshmen that the sport has ever seen. Jax Forrest, Ben Davino, and Aaron Seidel were all fellow phenoms, with the exact same expectations on their shoulders. And wrestling fans were eager to see who would claim the spot at the top of the food chain. Marcus ended up taking 4th place as a true freshman, an incredible accomplishment. But that's not what he expected of himself. And honestly, it's not what a lot of wrestling fans expected either. However, I was surprised to eventually learn that he was wrestling with the flu the whole time. You had the flu. I didn't know that. Did anyone know that?
No, I don't even know if my coaches know that until maybe if they listen to that interview. But yeah, I threw up a couple of times during the national tournament, but the guy you're wrestling doesn't care what injury or if you're sick. You just got to go out and compete and do the best you can. So that's what I tried to do, at least. It was a great year. I didn't want to lose at all, but sometimes it happens, and you just learn from that stuff and be grateful for everything that you have. It was hard just knowing I took 4th and that I would have to wait until the US Open to be able to wrestle again and compete against these guys.
He had the flu during one of the biggest tournaments of his career, but he never made any excuses. Instead, he kept his head down and his eyes on the next shot at redemption, the US Open, where the field not only includes Jax Forrest and Ben Davino, but also Seth, who beat Marcus in the semifinals of this very tournament last year. Winning this tournament would secure Marcus a spot in Final X and would bring him one step closer to making his first ever senior level world team. But can he do it? Marcus cruised into the semifinals with 2 techs, but now is his biggest test. He's going to face Seth Gross, who he lost to at this tournament last year, 5-3.
Seth Gross he's like one of the hardest people for me to wrestle, just because when he gets to his advantageous position, he like attacks it really hard. And most people, it's like, oh, they get to my leg. But I'm okay, like, if people get to my leg. He's like, I'm 2-on-1 and I'm like gonna like, I don't even know what he does, but gets behind me where I can't even like defend on like a single leg or high crotch. He makes me get a lot better at wrestling. And yeah, I didn't really change much. I just was like, hey, go in there, pull on his head and take risk, and that's kind of what I did.
Is he an intimidating guy to wrestle at all because you know how weird he can be in certain positions?
I wouldn't say intimidating, but I would say challenging. He definitely challenges me more than some other opponents who some of our matches are a lot closer. But yeah, he challenges me in ways that you don't think you can be challenged. Yeah, Seth Gross is amazing.
Here's it, level changes. Blaze looking for an angle, and Blaze gonna get at least a step out. He does, that's a point. Low level attack, elevates in single. And Gross pulls out that wrist. He's so good with the wrist control. Blaze though gets back to the lock, brings it back up to his feet. And Gross gonna have to be aware of the edge of the mat. Gross is very tricky defensively, but oh wow, Gross swings that foot back in bounds, avoids going out. And now Gross with the wrist. Gross can work from here. Blaze though coming up the middle. Now Blaze trying to come out the back door. Gross not going to be able to defend this time. Marcus Blaze extends the lead. Gross trying to work from front headlock. Wants the head pinch, but instead Blaze gets in on a shot, finishes. It's now 6-0, and that'll do it. Marcus Blaze, 6'1", your winner at 61 kilos.
Now Marcus has already avenged 1 loss.
Every single time I tend to lose, I feel like I get a lot better.
But the final gives him another chance at payback. Waiting for him is Ben Davino, the very same wrestler who beat him in triple overtime at the NCAA Championships just a few weeks ago. But this is not just a regular match. Back when Ben was committed to Ohio State, Marcus was training there, which meant these two had already spent a lot of time solving each other.
We practiced a lot together, and so we know the ins and outs of each other. So right now it's just like this little like chess match, so who makes the minor adjustment at the right time.
And Ben Davino is coming in with momentum of his own, fresh off a win over Jax Forrest. If Marcus wins here, he doesn't just punch his ticket to Final X. He puts himself right back at the top of this legendary freshman class. But like I said, that's not really something Marcus cares about. That's just something us fans care about. To Marcus, it's just another match.
I didn't really care who it was. I was just like excited to wrist wrestle. Competing is so fun.
Started. We are underway, 61 kilograms in the red. That's Ben Davino, Ohio Regional Training Center out of Ohio State. In the blue, the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, Marcus Blaze out of Penn State. Keeping that head away. There's another shot, but a good down block there from Marcus Blaze. Again, not able to get to a lock on that leg as you see Blaze trying to snap that head to the mat. Doing anything he can to create that angle as Blaze extends his lead 2-1. Now running one way, then the other, finds his hands, locked on the leg. This could be the scoring opportunity Blaze has been looking for. Finishes, comes out the back door, take down Marcus Blaze, staying at home. Wrestling, clapping a little early there. But as it stands, a 4-1 final, Marcus Blaze, US Open champion, headed to Final X.
Every single time I lose, I feel like I get a lot better. But one thing Coach Kale said during the season that stuck with me is you don't need to lose to learn. Like I wrestled Davino at the duel and it was super close. And that was a moment where I could learn, like, hey, don't force it to go to overtime. But then the next 2 times it went to overtime. It was the first time someone's ever told me that, really. People say you don't lose, you learn. But I think you can learn even when you win.
Is there anything you learned at this tournament in your wins?
Yeah, there's been a lot.
You know this already because I included it earlier in the video, but Marcus didn't tell anyone he was sick during the NCAA Championships until he won the US Open and mentioned it in his post-match interview.
It's bittersweet because I wanted to be an NCAA champion, but The flu really does not care what tournament you're at, so the other guy doesn't care that you're sick. He doesn't care at all. He's gonna come try and kill you. So yeah, it just feels good to get back out on the mat and push the pace like I'm used to doing and get into my offense.
I thought that was a pretty cool thing for Marcus to keep to himself until he won a tournament and put himself back at the top. But during that interview, I also learned that that wasn't the only struggle he was going through.
I had a family member pass away, and I really wanted to win a national title for them, but it just apparently wasn't the right time.
When someone's on their deathbed and they say, Marcus, the only thing I want to see is you walk out in a Penn State wrestling singlet, it hits pretty hard. And so when I got sick during the national tournament, I was just like, hey, this is the test, like you have to do it. And it hurt when I didn't because that was in the back of my mind, but it feels good to win the US Open, obviously, so I'm sure he's looking over and praying for me. He would always tell me, show him the lights, so that's what I always try to do, and yeah, I loved him dearly.
You never really know what's going on in an athlete's life, and having that context from Marcus made what he did at the US Open that much more impressive to me. He's a really thoughtful kid who loves winning, but he cares infinitely more about his family, his friends, and his teammates. He had avenged last year's loss to Seth Gross. He had beaten Ben Davino, the guy who beat him at NCAAs, and he had put himself right back at the top of one of the most loaded young groups college wrestling has ever seen. But the reward for this weekend is not an easy road. It's Jax Forrest. Jax Forrest just recently won the World Team Trials, punching his ticket to Final X. And now the wrestling world gets to look forward to a matchup we've been eager to see for 2 years.
Jax is really good, and he has beat the crap out of me a couple times. I don't know how to explain it, but the first time you wrestle Jax Forrest, you better be ready. I think the first time I wrestled him, he beat me 13-4, and it was 2-point takedowns only. But yeah, he's a phenomenal opponent.
Their most recent match happened at the 2024 Olympic Team Trials, where they wrestled for third place as high schoolers, both of them. Marcus beat Jax decisively, but both of these guys are still at such a young age that it feels like any time they meet, a different result could happen. And we get a best 2 out of 3. It's like the ideal scenario for people who want to see these two wrestle. We thought we'd get that rematch last year at the US Open, but Marcus lost to Seth Gross, and Jax went on to make the senior world team as a high schooler. And now, 2 years later, fans will finally get what they've been waiting to see. At 19 years old, Marcus Blaze has already been the phenom, the headline, the world champion, the NCAA All-American, and now the US Open champion. But the most interesting part of his story is that it still feels like the beginning. Final X is next, and Jax Forrest is waiting. Streaming live on Flow, don't miss it.